afternoon, everyone. We want to thank you for coming to What's Cooking for July. It's hard to believe we're in a new month, July 1st. And July is ice cream month, so that is why our focus is ice cream and some topping and some good things to go along with it. So that's what our focus will be today. There's a few housekeeping pieces that we do want to take care of before we get started. Starting in August, we are going to be going from 11 to 1. You've noticed we've been running a little long, and so we thought it's just better to take the time and make it a 2-hour session. It might not go 2 hours, but that way we'll get everybody out, that 1 o'clock time. So we're going to move it from 11 to 1 starting in August. And the August date is the 5th of August, and it's barbecue and sides. So we do have a sign-up sheet today. If anybody wants to sign up, it'll be right on that front counter. You can just write your name and what dish you want to bring. So that'll be there. Thank you. You have handouts on your chairs. There were 3 things. One is the ice cream flyer that you all have, this one. So you will be referring to that today with different recipes. There is the small sheet of paper that has our topics for the next 5 months coming up for the rest of the year, so you can see the dates and the topics for August through December. And you also have the July calendar. The trifold I think it's 4-fold, quadfold, with all the programs for the month of July that the libraries are offering. So those are the handouts that are there. We also want to, before we get started, give a huge shout out to our friends of the library. They are on the back sheet of your handout, and you can always join them. We would greatly appreciate that for $5. It is a great investment and help us continue the great programs that the library has to offer. Did I get everything, guys?
Pretty much.
We do, at the end, if you want to sign up for August program, we can get you signed up with the laptop, or you can sign up on your own, but we do have that here. We know we already have several people signed up, but if you need to do that, we'd be happy to do that. So if this is your first time here, my name is Suzanne. We have Willard and we have Spencer, and we are the 3 members that are doing the What's Cooking program. And like I said, it's ice cream, and I have a very simple piece today. It is just the toppings. I did homemade butterscotch sauce and hot fudge, and I submitted the caramel recipe, and I just didn't get to that one, so we have good old Hershey's for caramel today. So if you take a look on pages 4 and 5, those were the recipes that I had, and the 2 that I made are on page 4. I kind of ran out of steam and didn't get to the caramel sauce. We had some health issues that we were dealing with in our family this week. So my hot fudge recipe, for those of you that were here in, I think it was April that we did desserts when I did the Buster Bars. This is the hot fudge that I used for that ice cream recipe. So it is very simple, and this is what one batch makes. So the recipe that you see there, this is just a single batch of hot fudge. It is very simple. You can see the five ingredients: the evaporated milk and powdered sugar, chocolate chips, and butter. Just go into the saucepan and you mix it up very gently till everything just turns that chocolate color. And as you're getting ready to take it off the heat, after about 8 minutes or so, you just put in the vanilla and let it kind of sit and cool down. And then you all know, very simple, easy. There you go. Hot fudge was done. Then I did a butterscotch recipe, which again was not too difficult. You're taking the first, actually I should have put them in order, but I didn't when I was typing. Take the brown sugar, the butter, and the heavy cream, and you're going to just mix that together and keep stirring and stirring. Now this one I did triple. So it's about the same amount, a little less than the hot fudge, but this was tripled. So you can see it does not make near as much as what the hot fudge did. So then at the very end, just a little pinch of sea salt in there. And then just kind of let it cool down, and it was good. So nothing too difficult. Yes?
Is that hot fudge sauce, will that also make the one that gets hard if you put it in the refrigerator?
Yes. So like hard, like a candy shell hard, or no, because once it does get hard, but like once it becomes room temperature, it's going to just it'll become more malleable. That. Yes, Connie. That's a great question. Whenever I make it, it never. I can't give you a duration because it's gone very quickly in our household. So I don't know. That's a very good question. Ice cream is it's not one of my, but my husband could eat ice cream every night. So it doesn't stay long in our house. So any toppings or any of that, they're gone. So great question. I just don't know the answer to that because it's never around long enough to give you a duration. So. And then, like I said, the caramel recipe, it didn't look any more difficult. And you can see it just has the 6 ingredients, with one being water and salt. So again, nothing too difficult. But I did not have a chance to make that with all that was going on this week. So like I said, Hershey's was my friend in that case. So that is what I have today. Willard, are you up next?
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions?
The other one, yes, that.
This one?
The
Yellow.
Yeah, that.
This is, Sylvia brought this in. It is Ready Whip with almond milk. Oh. Okay, Sylvia, you had an, So whipped cream, the Ready Whip so it's the non-dairy Ready Whip with almond milk. So yes. So yeah, we had a sign up last month as well, and some people have brought in some different things, which we will get to. So fabulous. All right.
Ready to go. Hi guys. So for today, I prepared some fried ice cream. It's going to be on page 6 of the booklet. So fried ice cream seems like it's going to be a difficult task to do, but it's really quite simple. So the only thing about fried ice cream is it's going to take prep time. Not a large batch of prep time where you're sitting there for 3 hours doing something. We're talking 20 minutes at a time, throw something in the freezer, let it firm up for a couple of hours, and then come back to it when you're ready to work on it for another 20 minutes. So it's actually a lot easier than people suspect it is. You're going to take your ice cream, scoop it out, form it into a ball, set it aside on a cookie sheet or some other flat tray, pop it in your freezer, let them form up for a couple of hours. Then, when they're nice and firm again, you're going to pull them out, and you're going to basically bread them. You're going to dip them in egg white and roll them in cornflakes. So the recipe calls for egg whites. I just use this for this batch. When I used to make this a long time ago, I would use whole eggs. I did not see any difference between using the whole eggs and using the egg whites. Both of them will work. It all depends on what you want to do. So for the cornflakes, you're going to have to crush these up. You could put them in a bowl and use a mortar and pestle, or you could put them out on your counter and use a rolling pin. What I typically do, anybody see that bag I had? Oh, thank you. Is put them in a heavy-duty freezer bag and crush them up that way. I'll just give a quick demonstration. Really cuts down on the mess. Close it up, use your hands, just crush them up. You're not getting any crumbs anywhere. After you've gone through and crushed them for a while, you can pour your cinnamon directly into the bag, shake up the bag, and then you've got your nice material. You've got essentially your breading. Pour that into your drenching bowl. You've got your ice cream balls all fresh out of the freezer. You've got a bowl of egg or egg whites, and then you've got a bowl of your breading material. Basically, you just take your ice cream, put it in your egg whites, put it in the breading material, roll it around, get a nice even crust on it. Doesn't have to be that thick to start with. You're going to do multiple layers. You won't be able to do this in one layer. You will have exposed ice cream that when you throw it in the deep fryer is going to melt right away. So take that breaded ball now, put it on another cookie sheet, do your batch, throw those in the freezer, go do something that you want to do for the next couple of hours, and then when you're ready, come back, pull it out, and do the same process again. So for today, I made up smaller sample sizes. because not everybody wants a full-size dessert when you're having all the other treats that you're going to have today. So for today's batches, you're going to get a lot more breading to ice cream. When I typically make them for myself and to serve for people, I make the balls a lot larger, and you get a much better ice cream to breading ratio that way. So, any questions? You do deep fry them. So after you've gotten 2 or 3 layers and you can no longer see any ice cream through the breading layers, and they've firmed up again in the freezer, you'll use your deep fryer. If you've got an automatic deep fryer, you don't have to worry about the temperature. If you do it on the stove top, you'll want to run it around 375. They don't take long to cook. You're going to throw them in anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. Basically, you're just going to fry that outer layer real quick and then set them aside. Some of the ice cream will melt inside of that shell, but it will stay inside of that shell when it does it. The more ice cream to surface area you have, the less ice cream will melt. Today's sample sizes are probably going to melt a little bit more than a regular dessert size would, but you'll still have ice cream inside the shell when you break it open.
Do you submerge it completely?
You'll drop it in, and it will pretty much float to the top, and I'll just use my strainer and roll it around a couple of times. It's not in there that long, so I'm not worried about one side burning and one side not burning. So,
What oil are you using?
I'm using corn oil because it has a high smoke temperature. Yep. So, and you want something that's got a very bland taste to it. You don't want to taste the oil when you're actually eating the dessert at the end. Yep.
Can you refreeze them?
You can. So I've never done it, but you can refreeze them after you cook them, and then basically just eat them as a cold treat afterwards. I wouldn't try reheating them, although I guess you could drop them in the fryer for another 5 seconds just to get that outer coating on it kind of heated up again, but I wouldn't leave it in there for too long.
Have you tried Rice Krispies?
Good question. There are a lot of variations on this. I've always done cornflakes. It's just the recipe I started with. There are people who do Rice Krispies. Since we're using cornflakes and cinnamon, there are people who make it simpler on themselves and will use a cereal like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, something that already has flavoring mixed in with the cereal. You just crush it up. You don't have to mix anything together. Pour it in a bowl, and you're ready to start doing your breading. So,
Ideally to serve, do you actually cook them last second and then serve them hot?
Yes.
Is that what you try to do?
Yep. So when Spencer's doing his thing up here, I'll be in the back getting the fryer ready. And then when we're getting ready to serve, I'll throw 3 or 4 in, get those cooked up, only takes half a minute. Platter those, I'll do the next batch, and then we'll bring out a couple platters every once in a while so that everybody gets some that are fairly fresh. And also for serving, you get to choose your own toppings to put on it. Most restaurants here that I've been to will put on whipped cream and chocolate. The one that I got used to back home was a Mexican restaurant. They would put on whipped cream and chocolate, or you could get whipped cream and honey. And I prefer the honey, but it's all your choice.
We were thinking July's National Ice Cream Month. Not a problem. Made ice cream for a million years. I go far as back to making ice cream when I was probably 6. My grandparents would freeze, if anybody remembers the old paper milk cartons, we'd fill those full of water. We would freeze them in a deep freeze. When I mean deep freeze, I'm talking about a dedicated, minus 20 freezer. And then we would, in the summertime, take them out, throw them in a burlap bag. Now you gotta remember, this is the 80s. So my grandfather gave me an axe and he said, use it flat, not this way. And I would smack the ice in the burlap bag to make the ice chips for the machine. The machine was... So their big thing was grape nut ice cream. So I grew up with an actual ice cream social where now this is dairy country, so everybody had an ice cream machine. So my grandparents were always tasked with making grape nut ice cream. If anybody's ever had that, it's grape nut cereal in like a cream mixture. They're gone, I can say this, it wasn't my favorite. I generally went for the chocolate or something like that, but hey, God love them, So that's kind of, when I got older, I'm like, okay, I want to continue making ice cream. So I'm going to show you the traditional way, and we do have some made this way, but I figured not everybody has one of these things at home. So back to the drawing board is how in the world are we going to come up with something that's like a no churn or something that you guys could do at home with maybe a hand mixer or if you have a KitchenAid. If you could do it with a bowl and a whisk if you want, that's another option. It's just your arms are going to get tired trying to beat cream. So I would recommend at least a hand mixer if you got one. You don't even need an expensive one, just get something that'll whip heavy cream. So in your book, on page 7, this took a month for us to figure out how to crack this nut because this is a no cook, no churn, no egg. So we had to strip all that stuff out that makes traditional ice cream based traditional ice cream. So it's like, how in the world are we going to make this work? So the first couple of tests, family and I, we took one tasteful of it, one in the bin. So, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. In the bin, in the bin, in the bin. So we probably threw out 5 or 6 batches of ice cream. It was awful. And probably once you've had the traditional and you're trying to take all this stuff and make it traditional, but you can't cook it and you can't churn it. And so I did some more research, and about 2 weeks ago, I finally figured it out. And what it is, if you go online and you look no churn ice cream, you're going to basically see a can of sweetened condensed milk, heavy whipping cream, and some flavoring, and they usually call it a day. And then you whip up the whipped cream. So that did not work for me for some reason. I kept getting these weird ice crystals. So I went back to what I knew as far as emulsifiers. Don't worry, I know that word sounds scary, but they're natural. And we're going to talk about it here in a second. So once we combine these things in a certain way to put everything together, we made it work. I couldn't believe it. So if we look on page 7, there's your sweetened condensed milk. I was trying to get away from this, but you can't with this. You really need it because it goes back to one of the French recipes. They use this technique to pull this together because, again, we're not cooking it, we're not churning it with a traditional machine. So that's kind of what that's going to do for you. All right, vanilla extract. I know we took a comment card, it was a couple months ago, and everybody said, what did you like best about the program? Everybody said the Baker's vanilla. So if you're new here and you're like, what in the world is he talking about? If you go to Walmart, they have this stuff. It's called Baker's Vanilla. It's has a yellow label. It even says Baker's Vanilla on it. It is bake and freeze proof. We're dealing with ice cream today, so that's a great thing. So if you use that, I put in 1 tablespoon. I really got to stop. Oh, I got to get together today. 1 tablespoon per quart. I did triple batches of everything today, so I put in 3 tablespoons. Okay, the next one's corn syrup. This is something I pulled from the traditional recipe. Now, don't have a heart attack. This isn't that high fructose stuff. This is basically liquid sugar. Why do we use corn syrup? Corn syrup will not freeze. It's a natural antifreeze. If you do not put corn syrup in your ice cream, it's going to be just like this counter when in the freezer. It will not scoop. So that's the reason for the corn syrup, and it's only 3 tablespoons, so we're not talking about a lot. Initially, I was not putting granulated sugar in. Again, sugar not only alters the sweetness, but it's also another antifreeze. The other thing about sugar is it's hygroscopic, meaning it wants water. So we're trying to avoid freezer crystals in there. So by putting this granulated sugar in there, it's going to help trap any of the floating water that's going to be in your dairy product. Does that kind of make sense? Salt, put salt in everything, even, unless you want to taste like cardboard. Another emulsifier that I used with the churn ice cream that I finally tried with this is I put in 2 ounces of cream cheese. This is another binding emulsifier agent. Don't worry, it doesn't taste like cream cheese. It's just in there to help pull everything and hold everything together. I tried it without it and I could not get it to come together, and plus it was icy. The minute I threw this in here, a lot of that went away. Between the corn syrup, the granulated sugar, and the cream cheese. Those are the 3 things I had to come up with. All right, now a lot of other recipes, if you just put in straight heavy cream and you tried this ice cream, It's going to be a little greasy because it's 36% butterfat. You want to cut it with something. I tried whole milk. Whole milk gave me nothing but problems. So I went, let's try half and half, because half and half, I believe, is around 16-ish% butterfat instead of 3% that's in whole milk. It's smoothed completely out. And it didn't have that heavy, greasy feeling that if you just used the whipping cream. So that's what I did. So basically, now, as far as how do you put this together, I'm assuming you have at least a hand mixer. We're going to go with that. Or if you have a KitchenAid, pretend it's a KitchenAid. Take a bowl. You're going to put in the condensed milk, the vanilla, the corn syrup, the sugar, the salt, the cream cheese, and if you're going to do a chocolate or peanut butter, which I'll talk about in a minute, you would add those things. You're going to then beat it. And then when you think you're done, beat it some more. Because here's the thing, we're not cooking this. We need the granulated sugar to try and dissolve in a room temperature liquid. This is another problem I ran into. So just beat it. I'm talking like 5 minutes. When the smoke starts coming out of your mixer, you know you're getting close, okay? So then take the 1 cup of half and half, put it in this mixture you've got going, beat it for like another 5 minutes. Now that, because the half and half has got water in it, that's going to help the granulated sugar dissolve. Okay, set that aside. Now you got, oh, another question?
Can you use one of those stand-up mixers if you can just let it?
You can, yeah, I actually have a KitchenAid at home. That's what I use. If you got a KitchenAid,
5 minutes and walk away?
yeah, exactly. And use, that's already attached in here, but I use the whip attachment, not the paddle and not the bread hook. That'd be interesting to watch. But you want the wire whip for this, because I rarely use the wire whip with my KitchenAid. I usually use it for whipping egg whites, in this case heavy cream, yes. So I use that to really help get the sugar to dissolve. But yeah, if you got a KitchenAid, crank it up, go do what you got to do. But for those of you that do not have a KitchenAid, I would definitely, you're going to have to stand there with a hand mixer. All right, so you've got that in that bowl. Now, take another bowl, put your heavy cream in it, and beat it to stiff peaks. Now, when I'm talking stiff peaks, a lot of things, for no churn, they'll tell you soft peak. That gave me problems. I said, this is not working. I'm going to go to the edge of butter. Because if you beat cream too much, you know what happens. It becomes butter, right? So you want this stuff to be so stiff that you take your beater attachment, you go like this, and it will stay in the bowl, straight up. You want it that stiff. Not butter, though. Although butter pecan, maybe? I don't know if you can make that work. So then you're going to, so you got this sweetened condensed milk mixture, and now you got this bowl of heavy whipped cream that's been beat to stiff peak, right? Take the whipped cream, a couple of spatulas at a time, and then fold it. Don't stir it, fold it. You want to try and keep as much air in the whipped cream as possible, because this is what's the churned part. You're putting air into whipped cream. That's what this machine is actually designed to do, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So we're replacing all of this with your beater, with your KitchenAid or your hand mixer. So you fold it and you fold it and you try to get it as lump-free as possible. Once you have it together, throw in a container, take a piece of plastic wrap, put it directly on the ice, on your mix, and then put a lid on it and stick it in the freezer for 12 hours. Here's another tip. If any of you buy ice cream at the store, you know, whatever brand you like, you take some out of it, when you're done, take some plastic wrap and put it directly on the ice cream. Our home freezers don't frost up. So what's happening is it gets cold, it thaws. It gets cold, it thaws. It does this cycle all the time. And what's going to happen is those ice crystals in your ice cream are going to keep doing this with each cycle of the freezer. So if you put that plastic wrap on top of your ice cream when you go to store it, it's going to stop some of that. That doesn't matter what ice cream you're going to be working with. Put some plastic wrap on it. Does that much make sense? So we have a deep freeze at the house. It's minus 20. There's one in the back. So I was here at 9 o'clock in the morning. We took stuff out of our deep freeze. We put it in here to store it. When I got here, I said, I may actually have to pull it out to temper it so we can actually scoop it. Because of the corn syrup and the sugar that's in there, I just touched it and you can scoop it right out of the freezer. So it does not get rock hard, which is what we were going after. So what you've got in your book is for vanilla. In the notes section, if you have a pen, if you want to do chocolate, I buy this. This is the Ghirardelli Dutch process cocoa powder. This isn't the other stuff. This is Dutch processed. It's been adjusted to have the bitterness taken out of it. So you put a half a cup of this in per quart. So if you're going to do what's in the book on page 7, you would just add a half a cup of this.
Would you buy that in the baking section?
You can get this in the baking section, in Walmart I know has it. I'm not sure about Publix. But it's called Dutch Process. It's in this purple bag. So this is actually what I use. When you guys try today, this is, if you like it, this is what I used. Another little tip, I didn't do it this time, but for chocolate, they also sell espresso powder in the baking aisle. Take like a teaspoon of that and throw it in there, because the chocolate will help, or I'm sorry, the coffee, espresso powder will help enhance the chocolate. A lot of people, like when I make chocolate ganache cheesecake, I think we did that here for desserts a while ago, right? Yeah. That had some of that espresso powder in there. So anyway, that's what that looks like. Now, the other one that we made was peanut butter. So if you're going to do, you could take this same base, instead of the chocolate, put in 1/3 of a cup of, I did creamy peanut butter. If you want to do chunky, you could throw chunky in there. I'm not sure how that would work, but because you're going to be mixing it with the sweet condensed milk and all that other good stuff before you whip the cream. But that's what I used, was 1/3 cup of creamy peanut butter. If you buy the Jif brand, on the first ingredient on the label, it's roasted peanuts. So on some of the other ones, they just say peanuts, or there's some other ingredient. So I like Jif because it tastes more peanut buttery to me, if that makes sense, because I think they roast them, but that's what I did. So once you kind of use this as a base, you can make anything from it. Question?
The espresso powder, was that 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon?
I'd probably do 1 teaspoon. Oh, coffee ice cream is another great option. First time I made coffee ice cream, we were up for 3 weeks. If you're going to make coffee ice cream, use the instant decaf. Or else, you know how it is, 9, 10 o'clock, you're looking in the, oh, you know, just 1 scoop. Well, we all know how that turns out. You get a bowl this big, and then you are wired. So use the instant decaf. I would say maybe, depending on how coffee you want your ice cream, I would start with maybe 1, maybe 2 tablespoons per batch. The other thing is, now when I've made peanut butter ice cream a lot in my regular machine, not a problem. So this stuff is not as thick when you're finished with it. So, of course, you've got to have these in there. I mean, we're eating ice cream for lunch. Let's just call it what it is, right? So, these we will sprinkle on top if you want. But if I was making it in the traditional way, I would stir it in, and it would hold these in suspension because it's a whole lot thicker. But I did bring these so you guys could put them on. Now, if anybody's got a peanut allergy, let us know. We got a separate scoop and all that kind of stuff that we can, handle that, because we don't want anybody to have any issues. Okay, so
Still add the vanilla?
I did on the chocolate and the peanut butter. I always add the vanilla. Yep. If you want to try it without it, it's probably, peanut butter is a pretty strong flavor. You may not need it, but again, that Baker's vanilla is really inexpensive. So I go down to that CBI place and I buy a gallon at a time. So not everybody's like that, but you can get a pretty decent sized bottle at Walmart for like $1. So it's not too expensive. All right. This stuff. So let's say you want to dabble a little bit in traditional ice cream. Okay. On the inside cover of your book, there's a little chart in there. Sometimes we like to put these things in here. So, for example, the electric hand mixer. Okay, everybody knows what that is. You got a couple of options when it comes to traditional churned ice cream. We started with this. This is from Cuisinart, and this is a 1-quart machine. What's in your book, I think, is 1.5. I'm sorry, it's a 2-quart machine. There you go. So they're kind of pricey, you know, 85 bucks. So this, we'll say this is roughly $50-ish. If I think is about what we paid for this a long, long time ago. So you get the base. It comes with this thing, which we'll talk about in a second. And then here's your dasher. And then this is the top. So this is really quiet. You could actually make ice cream at 2 o'clock in the morning and not wake anybody up, which is kind of nice. It's going to come with this thing. I know you can't really hear this, but it's liquid right now. This goes in the freezer for 2 days, and then it gets really, really cold. When you're ready to make your ice cream, you take this, you stick it in the base. This guy goes in here. There's a little divot in the bottom. This goes on here. It's not plugged in. You turn it on. 20 minutes later, you got 1, or in this case, 2 quarts of ice cream. Or you can use it for lemon ice. Angie made lemon ice with this. So she's going to talk about that a little bit later. This is option A. Now, if you're like us, you're like, oh, this is really fun. Let's buy more of these things. Because you get 20 minutes and then that's it. You're done. You got to clean it out, throw it in the freezer for another 2 days and start over. You can't do, we tried multiple batches. It just does not get cold enough. So, my poor wife, she's married to me. I said, you know, we need to go more. I mentioned my grandparents had this crank machine. This is the electric version that they have maybe from like 1960. It was actually from the White Mountain Company. They do not make this anymore. You cannot buy this. I don't know, maybe on eBay you might be able to find one. I tried to look one up because I thought somebody might be crazy like us and say, where do we get one of these? I found one. It's the Amish folks up in Lancaster and Ohio make these now. Would you like to guess how much this is? Throw out a number.
$300.
Double that. 700 bucks. I about had a stroke. I said, okay. So hopefully this will not break, or else guess what? My KitchenAid is going to become my machine. So this has an aluminum can. It's just, this is a 6-quart machine. This is 1 quart, 6 quarts. If I'm going to do the work, why not make, you know, it'll hold in the freezer. So if you look, this is built a little bit differently. This is the beater for this. This is the dasher for this. You see the wood on the sides. So when this goes in here, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but the wooden paddles actually scrape the sides of the can. So what's actually happening is this metal can is spinning, the center column is staying still, and this is going around. They call it triple action. It's great marketing. But basically, so you put your, this goes inside of here. You can see it's well loved. That goes inside of there like so. It helps if you put the lid on. Now, I am sorry. I am not going to stand there for a half hour. Them days have sailed. So they give you this super duper heavy motor. This thing probably weighs, I don't know, 10 pounds. You can come up here and play with this stuff after we're done. So this goes on here. You just got to line up the little thingy. Eventually it's going to go. There. You plug this in, the neighbors are going to know you're making ice cream. This is not quiet like this. It is a little loud. So now you think, oh, great, I'll plug it in, we'll have ice cream. There's nothing in here to make it cold yet. So what I did is I went to Walmart and bought 2 7-pound bags of ice. Not a problem. You're also going to need this stuff. Ice cream salt. Publix sells this, Walmart does not. They used to, but I guess they didn't have a big enough call for it. You'd think summertime they would be selling it. I brought some in a clear plastic bag. You guys can see what this looks like when you come up. It's really, really coarse stuff. I'm from upstate New York. At 2 in the morning in the wintertime, the trucks would go by and dump this stuff on the road. Same idea. So I fill it up 1/3 with ice. I put a cup of salt, another 1/3 of ice, another cup of salt, and then I put ice on top, let her rip. I literally timed this yesterday when I did the vanilla for us here today, 20 minutes, done. And it comes out a little bit thicker than soft serve, but you still would want to put it in the freezer to let it finish hardening all the way. But this, because of you're churning it, and it's actually the traditional style, you could easily put this in and it would hold them in suspension, no problem. Or cookies and cream, or whatever you want to do, mint chip, anything like that. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention about the coffee ice cream, if you want to make that, sometimes coffee can be a little bitter. This is my wife and I actually went to like ice cream school, believe it or not. This was a secret ingredient we used in the coffee ice cream. What you do is you take and you go squirt per quart. This helps get rid of some of the bitterness of the coffee, depending on how coffee-y you like your ice cream. So that's something else you can add to it real quick.
Tastes like mocha?
Not if you just do like 1 squirt, it's not really going to do that. If you start adding 2, 3, 4, however much, then you could probably turn it into a coffee mocha ice cream. Absolutely. All right. So again, the salt is only $2 for this 5-pound, 4-pound box. We bought it the other day, so I can tell you that much. If you have a lot of ice at your house, go for it. We don't, so I just get the bags at Walmart, Publix, whatever. The nice thing about that is, let's say you wanted to do chocolate and vanilla back to back. Not a problem. Take this out, put the salt and water mixture maybe in a bucket, put this back in with your chocolate, put the salt and ice mixture back in, top it back off, let her rip. You do not have to wait. The other thing I like to do is with the thermometer, I stick it in here into the ice to make sure it's below 32 degrees. Because if it's not, it won't freeze. So I actually got it down to 1 degree. So it's actually pulling the heat out of the ice cream mixture that's in the can, and that's how you get ice cream. Without this, it's not going to go. This lowers the freezing point. It's kind of a chemistry thing. So you're going to get to try this. Some of this we did make I made 3 quarts of base. We got about 4-ish quarts back, so it's kind of what they call super premium ice cream. We made 3 batches each of vanilla, chocolate, and peanut butter of the no churn ice cream, because I figured that's what most people were going to be, On the next page, by the way, that's facing the equipment, you've got, what's the difference between ice cream, sorbet, gelato? We're not going to get into all that, but it's in there if you want it. Okay, so Spencer being Spencer, if you look on page 9, it says giant chocolate cookie. I know how you guys are. You guys are repeat offenders. You ain't fooling me. So, cookies and cream, right? Okay, so let's make some chocolate chip cookies, but why should we do 1? Or I should say 15 or 50, because 50 people signed up. So I thought, let's do a skillet cookie. So what's in here is a 12-inch cast iron pan. I don't know how many people have a cast iron pan in their house. It's, okay, more than I thought. So if you don't have a cast iron pan in your house, you could use a cake pan, like a round cake pan. I did the math last night. I had to come back to algebra, or not geometry, right? Pi r squared equals the area of a circle. I know we got some school teachers in here. So a 12-inch circle is the same as a 9 by 13. within 3 inches, so that'll work. So I think pretty much everybody has a 9 by 13 pan at their house. So you could use that if you wish with this recipe that's in the book. Well, this is a 17-inch cast iron pan. I usually use this for, I actually use this for when I do pizza. It's a deep dish, yeah. The only problem is they're a little heavy. You might see this again in October. You just never know. So we made this one cookie, and what I did is, of course, we put paper in here so you could get it out. That makes it easy. And now we can actually cut it and whatever. So this is a chocolate chip cookie that's basically was just cooked in this. You could do it in a 9 by 13. If you do have the cast iron, fine, use it. Good excuse to get it out. And for this, I did use the Hershey Special Dark Chocolate Chips, but I didn't remember to keep the bag. Now let's see, is there anything else? Or am I done? I think we're done. There is some on page 6 and page 10 is some ice cream tips. So if you're going to be doing like churning of ice cream, you want to make sure you chill your base overnight so it's good and cold. The colder it is, the faster it's going to freeze, which means less ice crystals. We talked about butter fat, and there's some other tips in there. We're not going to go into all that today. Again, about wrapping it up. Make sure you put plastic wrap on it. And we brought some ice cream scoops. So since you guys, I know you're all health conscious, we got this one right here. If you do want to do this, by the way, and you don't want to pay $700, in your book, on the inside page, the Pioneer Woman, some of you have heard of her. She's on Food Network. Her name is Ree Drummond, I believe. They have an ice cream machine, 4-quart, that's electric at Walmart that's $35.
I can't believe that, only 35.
Yeah, why is it so cheap? So when I looked at it, the paddle inside, the dasher, is all plastic. And the motor is definitely not like this. So, but if you want to get in cheap, and it will make you ice cream, I'm sure, or even lemon sorbet, those kind of things, $35 is a whole lot easier to eat than $700. So, or even something like this. You know, if you got a big family, 1 quart, 2 quart probably may not get you very far. So that might be an option. So that's where I got the $35 that's in your book, is at Walmart. I was there the other day and they had a whole end cap full of them. I went, oh, this is good to know because we're having the ice cream class. So there you go. So then you'll notice that that's a whole lot cheaper than this version because you have to add your own salt and ice. So for the one for $35, the question was how many quarts? It's 4 quarts finished. You don't want to make 4 quarts of mix because this stuff's going to expand in here. So this is a 6-quart machine, so I make 3 quarts of mix. I get about 4 to 5 finished. So there's room for the ice cream to expand. If I were to put 6 quarts in there, it would come out all over the place. So if you're going to do the Pioneer Woman version, that's 4 quarts. I would do 2 quarts, start with that, and then see what you get out of it. If you can squeeze another 3rd one in there, fine, depending on how fast the motor turns. So that's something that I would definitely try. Oh, okay. I know that KitchenAid does make a bowl that you freeze that looks like this. And then the paddle goes down in top of it and it snaps into the pins and then it will do it that way. So if you do have a KitchenAid traditional, they do make a bowl for that, but it's like a 1 quart. I think it's like $100-ish. I think my wife and I were looking at it. Is that okay. But again, you're stuck to 1 quart. This can make, it just depends how much ice cream you want to eat and how fast you want to make it. That's basically what it boils down to. If you're a person of one and you're like, hey, this is fun, I'll do this once in a while, awesome. If you've got grandkids coming over all the time and or you're going to go to a party, that's the only reason why we get invited to places. Other than that, they're like, no, forget it. So I can crank, we can crank out almost 6 quarts and away we go. So, what? Yeah.
What do you store the ice cream in once you're done?
Just basically a plastic Tupperware, resealable. So put it in the container, put your plastic wrap on it, and then put the lid on it, and then throw it in the freezer. Yeah, anything. They'll try and sell you fancy ice cream things that are like in a log shape, so you can get your scooper and then go like this. Just use it. We went to the dollar store and got these 9-cup Tupperware things. They're perfect.
I made 2 recipes I'm going to be sharing with you today. First one we're going to be going over is the classic lemon Italian ice. It's on page 11. So I wanted an alternative to some of the heavy ice cream to kind of give us a little break and something refreshing and light for the summer. So I come up with this recipe for the Italian ice. I used the white machine like Spencer was telling you about just a minute ago. And it worked out really nice, although you can make this in just your regular freezer. You would have to mix it up, put it in your container, take a fork every half hour, 45 minutes to fluff up the ice. And the end result will be a little coarser than what you make in a machine, but it's just as satisfying. So it just depends on preference and how you like that finished product. So for the Italian ice, I squeezed a lot of lemons. Got to get those elbow grease going. I added lemon zest just for flavor and for texture and just personal preference. The sugar, coming back to the question about the sugar, you can substitute whatever you like depending on what you need for your nutrition. You can, whatever your favorite sweetener is, Splenda or agave, you probably could use some honey. You might have to adjust those ratios in your final product just to get the consistency and the sweetness that you want. So basically with the classic Italian ice, you're making a wonderful lemonade. So you can either drink it once it's cooled down, chill it, serve it over ice, or you can make it into the classic lemon Italian ice. And then, so when I start out with this, I get my lemons all juiced and get those ready, set those aside. I usually put those in the refrigerator so they can start that cooling process. So when I'm ready to combine everything in my machine or put everything in the freezer and let it all freeze solid, then it has a jump start to that. And then while that's in the refrigerator chilling, I get my water. You can either use the lemon zest or the lemon rinds. Just put it all in a bowl. Put your water and your sugar or whatever sweetener that you're going to be using. Give it a good stir. Put it in your microwave. The easiest way. Or you can put it on the stove in a pan. Just keep stirring it. Make sure that sugar doesn't scorch. And then when the sugar is melted, take it out of the microwave. Let it cool completely. Take out all of your rinds if you're using the lemon rinds there, or wait till it cools and then just strain the whole thing if you don't want any pulp or any kind of other things in there as well. And then once that cools, I combine it with the lemon juice and then put the whole thing into the fridge, let it chill. And when it's nice and chilled, I give it at least a couple of hours, then I put it in my machine. Now, one of the advantages I can tell from trying the traditional freezer method to trying the machine is that it comes out nice and fluffy, about 15, 20 minutes, give or take, depending on how cold that core is. If it's not cold enough, it's going to take a long time and it's going to just slush. It won't completely freeze. But when it's nice and cold and chilled, and you get about 15 minutes, and it's nice and fluffy, and the flavor is amazing. So then I just take it out, put it in one of the containers, put it in the freezer, and let it freeze overnight to give it a good solid, and away you go. Nice and refreshing. And then, any questions about that one?
Do you have to freeze that container too, like you did for the ice cream?
Yes, exact process, except we're using different ingredients. Yep. And then the last recipe we're going to be going over is the summertime strawberry sauce. So for me, growing up, I have fond memories of making snow cream and vanilla ice cream with my grandparents. And summertime would come around, what do you do in the summertime? You have fresh strawberries, you have fresh fruit, you make some kind of cobbler or some kind of like strawberry shortcake, which is my personal favorite. So combining your homemade ice cream with fresh ingredients of the season is another way to use some of those things and keep it, not get bored with the same ingredients and try something new. So today, to go with our strawberry sauce that I made, we're going to be doing strawberry shortcake as well. So combining the homemade ice cream that we have wonderfully made for us today to sample. And the other toppings and things, we can combine those to try a nice different dessert. So for the summertime strawberry sauce, I started out with a pound of fresh strawberries. Rinsed those really good, dried them off with a paper towel so you don't have any of that excess moisture on those. I just took the cores out. I have one of those little strawberry hullers. Comes right in. It's really easy to use. If not, you can just use a knife of your choice. And slice those up, put them in a bowl with a granulated sugar. And again, you can substitute any kind of favorite sugar that you like to make it to meet to your needs. 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. That keeps the flavor fresh and also maintains that nice vibrant color of the strawberries as well. And if you notice on the recipe, I didn't cook this. And there's a reason for that. With strawberries, it's such a light, aromatic type of flavor note to it. When you cook a strawberry, it changes that note. You won't get that crispness, that fruitiness, sweet, but kind of tangy kind of taste that we love about strawberries. So I wanted to maintain that. So for this recipe that I am sharing with you today, I did not cook that, and that's the reason why. So I put everything in a bowl, chopped strawberries and everything, mixed it up, gave it a good stir, put a piece of cling wrap on it, put it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, let that sugar and the lemon juice open up the pores of your strawberries and allow that flavor to enhance and to come out. And it brings out that water in it. And that's what we want because that makes that sauce. So once it's done macerating, is a technical term, in the refrigerator, I take that out and I take my old trusty stick blender. Yes, I have all the tools. Thanks to Spencer. Take my stick blender, or you can use a potato masher or just even a fork, depending on how fine you want that texture in the end product. And I just gave it a once go until it looked good, and you're ready to serve it. You can put it in the refrigerator. You can make strawberry shortcake. You can put it over just ice cream. You can take a spoon, however you like. And that's the recipes that I have for you today.
And my grandma's recipe is on page 10. It's grandma's ice cream topping. This is 2 batches, so if we use it all, that would be good. But I wanted to make a clarification here on the chocolate. I call out that it's 2 unsweetened chocolate squares. So that would not be this. This is the dipping chocolate that you make candies with, or chocolate strawberries, or pretzels, something like that. So this is not the melting wafers, not that one. It has to be the unsweetened, so it's not this one either. This is the semi-sweet, because my recipe has 2 cups of sugar, so we don't need extra sweetness. So when I was shopping for my ingredients, I couldn't find the squares. So instead, I got cacao. This is the powder. There's a recipe on the bottom then that you can make squares. So I use just the plain cacao, and that would be 3 tablespoons of the powder and 1 tablespoon of shortening. And to me, that is butter. So the 3 tablespoons of the powder and a tablespoon then of butter. You mix it all up. It's pretty easy to make then. But then you add 2 more tablespoons of butter, because butter is the best. A cup of water, some salt, granulated sugar, and then the vanilla. The secret to this recipe, though, is that you have to I use a double boiler to make this, and you have to bring it up to 200 degrees with a candy thermometer. I know Spencer likes the digital, but my grandma would roll over if she knew we were doing the digital, so you got to use a candy thermometer. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to make sure that we do the clarification. And we got plenty of chocolate, so when we're ready, this is my grandma's recipe.
And I got this recipe out of Paula Deen Celebrates, and I want to put in a plug for our Port Charlotte Friends of the Library bookstore, because I got this at the bookstore maybe a month ago, and happened to see this recipe for rum raisin apple topping for ice cream. And so I made double batch, but it has 5 Granny Smith apples, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 cup sugar, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, and a half a cup of golden raisins, and a tablespoon of rum, and then 2 tablespoons of cornstarch at the end to thicken that sauce. And it's very easy. I peeled the apples, that's the hardest part, peeling and slicing the apples up so they're real thin. And then you mix that apple in with the butter, and then put in the sugar and the cinnamon and the raisins, and cook that until the apples are soft. It says about 5 minutes, but I just kept seeing when the apple was soft. And then the last thing you put in, you mix the rum with the cornstarch and put that in and stir it, and it thickens up that and makes a topping for your ice cream. And in the book, Paula Deen would make it just before they would eat it, so it would be warm. And I made it before we came here, so it's a little warm, but, you know. And she suggests putting it on vanilla ice cream, or just eating it out of the bowl.